These 43,000 square miles constitute a great country. I am proud to be a Liberian. I wouldn't want to be anything else but a Liberian. I love this country. I love its people. Every day I drive along the streets and I see not sad faces, but smiling faces. Faces of hope and aspiration on the part of our beleaguered public. What I see are people in anticipation of a better day for this country and for themselves. I've heard people come and say on several occasions that what we have here is a country of people who, thank you, of people who conspire against each other, whether because of tribal differences, because of religious differences, and what have you. I personally believe that those are bold-faced lies. That is the opinion of Clarence Simpson. Clarence Simpson feels that what we need in Liberia is clarity of vision in establishing a way forward, and that can come about only through educating our young people. We have a population now where the mean age in Liberia is around 21 years of age. We have a situation where most of the people today are very young in this country. So it gives us a wonderful opportunity, an opportunity to see that the educational process is put in place to educate these young people. And we should not stop only at what we see in Monrovia and its environs, but we should go out into the several counties, into the villages, the hamlets, and see how we can bring education to the young people in this country. For it is only through education that we'll be able to move forward. But this must be done with a level playing field. We must have a level playing field where my grandchild living in Liberia and your grandchild and those young children in the villages and towns, they will be given equal opportunities. Equal opportunities to educationally advance. That's where we stop a lot of the problems that we have here today. These problems are not because of crime and Mano or Gio or Bassa or Vi or Gola or what have you. No. The problem basically has to do with education of our people. And that's where the emphasis of this country and this government should be placed foremost. I hear people talk about warring factions and what have you. Ladies and gentlemen of this commission, that is a joke. This whole issue of warring factions is a joke. From 1943, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his Secretary of State Edward R. Stettinius Jr. came to Liberia to visit their troops in Robertsville, they invited the late President Edwin James Barclay and the President-elect William V. S. Tubman to visit America. They went and visited America. And during the time of that visit, there was an entente cordiale established between William V. S. Tubman and the United States government. That entente, in effect, stated, and with parole, it stated that the United States will control our foreign policy in Liberia. And they, in turn, will give assistance to Liberia, and the domestic affairs of the country could be governed any way that Tubman wanted it governed. You will see that during the whole period of Tubman's reign in this country, never one day you heard of human rights violations. Mind you, that Declaration of Human Rights was done, what, December 12, 1948? Somewhere around there. But you never heard of any human rights violation during that period. Why? Because Tubman could do whatever he wanted. Whatever he wanted with anyone. Send you to BTC, send you to Belayala, send you anywhere. And there wasn't a word mention of it. There wasn't a word mention of it. Okay? The problem started with the death of Tubman. At the time of the death of Tubman, let me just back up a little bit. You will recall that in 1960 and 1961, there was this great rush to independence on the continent of Africa. And during this great rush to independence, there were many new leaders emerging. Some of them had been through the struggles of trying to gain independence. Like next door, Ahmed Sekou Touré, like Kwame Nkrumah, like Azikiwe in Nigeria, like Nelson Mandela in South Africa, like Mugabe and this other fellow who used to come with him, stout fellow. Anyway, Joshua Nkomo, okay? Those men, because they used to come here and they enjoyed the largesse of Tubman. Tubman used to hand them purses to go back to help their causes. So therefore, regardless of his association, relationship with the American government, American people, these men would never try to slap the hand that fed them when they were in need. So they let Tubman go ahead, and a good example is in 1948. In 1948, this whole question of Israel and Israel becoming a state evolved at the United Nations. When that happened, the question was, where would Liberia put her vote? On the side of the Arab states who were against Israel's emergence as a state, or would it be on the other side? Up until the night before the vote, it was assumed by everyone, and commitments had been made, that Liberia would be on the side of the African brothers. However, that night, a telegram reached Washington and then to New York that the vote had to be for Israel, because that's what America wanted. So the next day, the vote was for Israel, and Israel became an independent state. Liberia had the swing vote. Liberia had the swing vote at that time. And that's what emerged. as a consequence of this entente cordiale. All right. Tolbert now is president of Liberia. The first thing is we had a problem in between Guinea and La Côte d'Ivoire. They had set up a grievance and reconciliation commission of the OAU to be headed by the president of Liberia. That had been done prior to the death of Tubman. Now here we were, Tubman was dead. Tolbert was president. The meeting went on in the early days of May of 1972. Okay? Here in Monrovia, we had an array of presidents here in Monrovia, including the Emperor Haile Selassie, including the two factions. We had Habib Bourguiba coming from North Africa. We had Leopold Sédar Senghor coming from Senegal. We had all of these African leaders here in Liberia. We had Yakubu Gowon from Nigeria. He too was present. During this meeting, as you all know, the chairman is addressed as Monsieur le Président. So everybody kept addressing President Tolbert as Monsieur le Président. And Tolbert then figured, oh, this is a chance. I was then Minister of Justice and a member of the delegation. This is a chance now for me to promote myself to be chairman of the OAU one day. And I'll go ahead and use this as a means of doing so. Because he felt good with himself as he was moving around in the corridors, trying to arrange some rapprochement on which peace could be brokered. When this happened, we left then, he started to make these forays in trying to get himself situated to become head of the OAU, chairman of OAU. But most of the people in Africa felt that Liberia was too closely aligned to the United States. And therefore, they didn't want to promote, Tolbert, who had this closeness to the United States. And therefore, Tolbert decided he had to start distancing himself from the United States. Okay, starting back there in 1972. And he proceeded. He became a member of the Non-Aligned. At that time, Joseph Broz Tito of Yugoslavia was head of the Non-Aligned. They decided to convene in Cuba. He said, I'm going to Cuba. Later on, from North Africa, came a suggestion that as they have formed OPEC, for the strategic owners of petroleum, fossil fuels, to be able to get together and fix prices. The countries in the world that had raw materials should do the same. And they set up this group. And they were going to take it to the United Nations and see how they could carry it forward. Of course, this is going to be a death knell to the industrialized country who got most of their raw materials from the developing countries. As a consequence of which, they proceeded to kill it. But Tolbert was one of the leaders in that also. Okay. Next, we had the problem of the Polisarios in Northwest Africa. With the problem of the Polisario there, we had, on the one hand, Morocco being supported by the United States, where Algeria, whom they consider socialists, being supported by other countries. They wanted, the United States wanted Liberia to support Morocco. We supported Algeria. Okay? So they took that against us also. Tolbert kept going. By that time, I personally started to get fearful of what was happening. The next thing was they had problems in the Middle East, in the Gulf of Aqaba. The decision then was made by America that she wanted a rapid deployment force that would be able to come and go to the Middle East when need be. But they needed a bunkering station. And Liberia was a good place for a bunkering station because in 1935 we had signed a treaty with the United States to this effect. That treaty had been amended, I think around 1953, it had been amended, okay, that allowed for this. What America did was they came and got stellar engineers here to do the drawings. So when the nota verbal was taken to the cabinet from America requesting the installation of this bunkering station here, the then Minister of Public Works got up in the cabinet, Gabriel Tucker, and said, what these Americans take us for? Just the rubber stamp? They have come now and started already to do the design and the drawings, and now they come to us and say that they want us to approve what they're already doing. So the President Tubman says, Tolbert said, not a bit of that. If that's the case, Mr. Foreign Minister, who was T. for Sherman, acting for Cecil Dennis, said, Mr. Foreign Minister, write the Americans and tell them, no, they can have no bunkering station here. And in retrospect, as I thought about it later on, I figured that that was the last nail that Tolbert drove into his own coffin. Because from that point on, they wanted him out. They wanted him out. And they did not rest until they got him out. Okay? That's 1980. 1983, April 1st. All of you remember. Remember what? The Franzameton affair. Franzameton. When they say he used the 50 millimeter, 50 caliber in trying to kill President Doe. Later on, Bob Woodward wrote a book for Bill Casey, who was head of the CIA in that period. And in that book, it is acknowledged that Franzameton was set up by the United States government to come and commit that act. It's in the book. It's in the book. Okay? Come 1985, we had the problem of the attempted coup d'etat with the General Thomas Couampa. We had that situation. But nobody mentioned that for months prior to this, Couampa and some others were in training in Maryland in the United States to come to Liberia and launch this attack. Nobody mentioned it. Okay? Yet and still, that is what happened. The only thing is, the main man who was to do the operation got killed on the bridge. He got killed on the bridge because he came across to do a reconnaissance. And while he was reconnoitering, they discovered the truck on the other side of the bridge and opened fire, and he got killed in the crossfire. Okay. So with that, the whole plan was disrupted because Couampa was to come and just take over after everything had happened and hold over until they told him what to do. Okay? All right. We went from there through 1990. 1990, this country again had a problem, this time with Taylor and Doe. With Taylor and Doe. Taylor had somewhere or other got out of prison in America, gone to Mexico, left Mexico, found his way to Ghana, and was in Ghana. He had been arrested, but some people were helpful to him in getting him free from Ghana. He left, he went to Sierra Leone next, tried to start a movement from Sierra Leone. Was in Sierra Leone again, he had problems. He left Sierra Leone, went to Cote d'Ivoire. From Cote d'Ivoire, he was introduced to Blaise Compaoré of Burkina Faso, and Blaise Compaoré then sent him up to North Africa to Gaddafi. And that's how his men got fired into Gaddafi to start getting their training. It put America in a very difficult position because by this time, after 1985, they wanted to see Doe out. Because there was Doe, this insignificant young man as far as they were concerned, who was here telling them that he would pay the debt, he would do this, he would do that, he would do the other. And I said, well, you know, who is this fellow to come and say this? We want him out. We want him out. Okay? That's why when Moses Wright was at Shefflin and President Doe called him and said, go to ELBC and take over, the Americans came right behind and said, no. Jericho will be talking to you all soon. Jericho will be talking to you all soon. So don't bother. Just wait. You'll get the instructions. Okay? Not that later on when they found out that this whole group were only 30-some men that had come into Liberia, and of the 30-some men that had come in here, only 7 were Liberians, and the rest were Sierra Leoneans who came here. Okay? That's when Doe called them back the second time and said, I said, go and take it over. And they went and took over ELBC. Then this whole thing started to crumble. Okay? All right. We went ahead and we started with the country being divided. Taylor in one part, the interim government, IGNU, here in another part. But all along, they were trying to call the shots on both sides of the divide. On both sides of the divide. You know, later on, when they had difficulty, all of a sudden, Prince Y. Johnson, who was in Bongmai, got brand new uniforms, got brand new weapons, and started coming to Monrovia. Where he got them from? Where he got them from? It's obvious where he got them from. Okay? Later on, as this war progressed, they finally decided, well, maybe we can get Taylor to act according to how we want him to act. So they sent this big delegation headed by Jimmy Carter. They came, we had these wonderful elections here in Liberia and all. But then, according to them, Taylor wasn't acting right. He wasn't acting correctly. So they started behind him. Then this whole question of oil and the fact that off the shores of Liberia, like the whole of the Gulf of Guinea, there's oil. And they decided that they want to control the oil in the Gulf of Guinea, the whole Gulf. They came and they expected to get it easy from Taylor. But they sent Under Secretary of State Pickering. They were Pickering here to talk to Taylor. Pickering came, met with Taylor, together with Mooney Captain, who is still here, and Louis Brown, who was the national security man, and they sat down and had a conversation, and Pickering listed the points that the U.S. wanted Taylor to follow. And said, if you follow these points, you can stay here for as long as you want. But Taylor said, who are you all to come and dictate to us? We are a sovereign state. You all can't dictate to us what to do. We will do what we feel is in the best interest of our country and our people. I don't think that Pickering was on the airplane. I don't think the plane had taken off the ground when they started forming Model. But they did that formation so rapidly that what happened was they put into Model more Muslims than they wanted to. So when they found out that Lerd was stacked with a lot of Muslims, they said, oh, we don't want to come and have another Muslim state created in Liberia. So therefore, we have to find something to counter it. They went to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and they formed Model. And they had Model coming down from the Ivory Coast, where Lerd was coming from Guinea. Okay? And they both, came. One was to neutralize the other. And then finally, when it was a draw, then they said, oh, let's go to Accra and set up this group. But who is they finance the group? Well, they have people living in the hotel there for free, eating free food every day, and this, that, and the other. Who?